What's going on, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the differences between Sofi and Lending Club and which one I prefer. And I've actually used both lending services previously. I think I've got multiple loans from Lending Club. I've also gotten a loan from Sofi. So I'm going to tell you the ins and outs of how these companies work, what to expect, which one I prefer. So you're definitely going to want to watch all the way to the end of this 10-minute video. And that being said, let's jump into it. Okay, so to start with, both Lending Club and Sofi allow you to apply for a loan for various different reasons. Sofi was actually started in regards to the student debt crisis, so a lot of people use it for student debt consolidation. However, you can also just get like personal loans, you can get credit card consolidation loans, auto loans, home improvement loans, different things like that. I actually use the loans to basically fix up a property as well as purchase a property. However, there's a wide variety of options and you'll have to just apply and choose the right one for you. Now, as far as the application process, both companies I would give an A+ in terms of how easy it is to apply for a loan. It's basically just like a simple online form. You might have to fill out like 5 or 6 questions and it would take all of 5 or 10 minutes to complete this. What's pretty cool about both sites as well is that they allow you to check to see how much you'd be qualified for. And it's just a soft credit check, so they're not going to do a hard inquiry unless you actually complete the full application. Now, I would say the one big difference between the applications is that Sofi is going to be more strict with their application, and they're going to want to verify typically your income, obviously your credit score as well, but they possibly will ask for a few more documents than Lending Club. With Lending Club, it's more of just a credit check, and your credit score doesn't need to be as high with Lending Club as it does with Sofi. So Sofi is more targeted at the higher income, higher credit score potential borrowers. And I think the minimum credit score to even apply with Sofi is 680. And I think the average score is about 700 from what I've read about. And that brings me to my next big difference between the two services, which is the interest rate. So with Sofi, because it's a higher credit, higher income type of borrower, the interest rate is going to be significantly less than Lending Club. So with Sofi, it's going to be somewhere between 6 and I think 20%. And I think the 20% would really be on the extremely high side. And with Lending Club, the interest rate for borrowers is going to be anywhere from 10% up to 36%, which is pretty extreme. However, Sofi wouldn't even give a loan option to some of these lower credit borrowers. So they both kind of have their pros and cons. Now, as far as how much you're actually able to borrow, Sofi does loans from anywhere from $5,000 up to $100,000, which is pretty insane because there's almost nowhere where you can get a personal loan for $100,000 or anywhere near that amount. You could try going to a bank or some local credit union, but you'd be lucky if you got like 10 or 15,000. And the loan that I got from Sofi was not 100,000 or anywhere near 100,000. So I don't know if that's just for extremely well qualified buyers that have like $500,000 worth of cash in the bank, or if that's something that they give out, every now and then. So it's something I'll have to do a little bit more research on. However, as far as Lending Club goes, they are more in the range of lending out $1,000 to $40,000 from a personal loan standpoint. So that's going to be significantly less than Sofi. But again, not everyone's going to need a loan for $5,000 to $100,000. Sometimes you might just need $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. So Lending Club can be a good option if you just need, a smaller amount. Next up, we have origination fees. And this is one category where Sofi has a huge advantage over Lending Club. So Sofi charges $0 in origination fees. So there's no junk charges or any mysterious charges that you see. Whereas Lending Club has, I think it's between 1 to 6% of the loan they're going to charge you in terms of an origination fee. So if you apply for, let's say, a $20,000 loan with Lending Club, 1 to 6% of that is going to go towards their fees. So you're not going to get $20,000. You're going to get 1 to 6% subtracted from $20,000. So it's a little bit of a difference there. Another part of the process where I think Sofi has a massive advantage over Lending Club is that if you set up auto pay with Sofi, you get a 0.25% discount on the interest or terms of your loan. So you're going to save, over the course of your loan, probably hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars just by setting up auto pay, which is simple and pretty easy to do. And you should do that anyways. Next up, we have the loan terms. And as far as the terms of the loan, the length of the loan, they're both pretty comparable. Lending Club is going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 years for the terms of the loan, and Sofi is going to be from 2 to 7 years. So you have a little bit more flexibility with Sofi, but again, it's not like a huge difference there. And if you want to be a good borrower and pay off your loan early, the good thing about both sites is neither of them charge a prepayment penalty. I can barely say that, prepayment penalty. In fact, I think most lenders, in terms of mortgages and different types of loans, don't really charge prepayment penalties anymore. I think with a lot of the Dodd-Frank or just different changes in lending, that policy has kind of gone away. But obviously you should always check with any lender. Next up, we have the length of time it takes to actually get funded from the time you apply for one of these loans. And the good thing about both lenders is that you can actually get funded within a few days or possibly up to a week if they need additional information. So I think both lenders are pretty even in that category. Once you apply and if you're qualified, you should be receiving the money pretty quickly. I mean, literally 2, 3, 4, 5 days you can have the funds in your bank account. One additional thing I forgot to mention is that SoFi actually has a couple of cool features. So they have career coaching, they have networking opportunities where maybe you can just go and hang out with other SoFi people and talk about your loan. And they also have unemployment protection. So I don't know the full specifics behind the unemployment protection, but I'm assuming, if you lose your job, then you might not be on the full hook for the loan, or maybe they'll give you some type of protection in regards to it. So SoFi really seems to be going like above and beyond, just being your local lender, so to speak. Now, overall, my official review of both of these companies. I prefer SoFi. If you have a good credit score and a solid income, SoFi is definitely going to be your best bet. However, if you're not looking for a loan of like $5,000, $10,000, or $100,000, then Lending Club is also a great resource. You're going to be paying a little bit of a higher interest rate. However, it's going to be much more flexible. You're not going to have to show as many documents, and it can be great for someone that just needs a few $1,000 for debt consolidation or whatever it may be. Now, before we get to the end of this video, I just wanted to quickly show you 3 additional websites and what their thoughts are on the differences between Lending Club and SoFi, just so you can have a total of 4 opinions and kind of come to a consensus as far as the differences and which one is better. So here we have NerdWallet, and this NerdWallet is obviously one of the most respected personal finance sites out there. Lending Club may be better if you want a smaller loan, you have a good credit history, low debt to income ratio. And look, it says Lending Club accepts applicants with lower credit scores than SoFi. Minimum credit score is 600. So you don't need to have, like a 680 or even 700 credit score like you do with SoFi. And it has a lot more information that you can go through on NerdWallet if you want to see that. Let's look at SoFi. So SoFi is going to be a better option if you have a good credit score, good income, and you want the lowest rate. You don't want to pay origination fees, and you potentially want a larger loan. So it has a lot more information, but that pretty much just confirms what I was telling you about. This is credible.com, so sounds credible, hopefully. Lending Club personal loans, best for people that need smaller loans and with less than perfect credit. So just like I was talking about. And I didn't really get into this, but Lending Club is a peer-to-peer marketplace, as it says right here, which means that your loan of, let's say, $10,000 might be funded by like 200 people across the United States who will invest, $500 here, $20 there, $1,000 there. And then depending on your credit score and what you're using the money for and the risk profile that Lending Club assigns to you, that's how the investors will get a return on their money, and that's how they will determine what your interest rate will be as well. As the borrower. So it's kind of a cool concept, and I haven't actually invested in Lending Club. I've heard kind of mixed reviews. If you do it correctly, you can do very well and make some passive income. But if you just invest in like the 36% loans, you might not do as well. And it just goes into a little bit more, lower credit requirements, smaller loan options, higher fees, longer processing time, not available to residents in Iowa. I didn't realize that. Puerto Rico or Guam. And let's look at SoFi real quick. So again, SoFi is good for good to excellent credit, those who need large loan amounts, people who want to avoid costly fees, the auto pay, higher loan maximums, unemployment protection, and also cosigners. So I think actually both of these have cosigner options if you want to increase the likelihood of getting accepted. Lastly, we have the website Magnify Money. SoFi might be a better option, high credit scores, more money, no origination fees. You get the idea. Hopefully I'm drilling this in your head, which one is better. They're both very good options, just, it just depends. So if I were you and you were looking for funds, to fix up a house or for something else, I would check with both companies and see where your interest rate would be, see what the terms of the loan would be. And then if it makes sense, do the full application and they'll do a hard credit check. But they're both good options and, they both have their pros and cons. So thanks again for watching. And if you have any questions, drop them below and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.